Today, I want to talk about globalization. Globalization comes in many forms, such as sports. For example, the NBA, an American-based basketball league which has been growing in popularity in China. Viewership is up 39% from last season, and the NBA merchandise has quadrupled in China. Now, millions of people are watching the NBA in China. This is showing how the people of China have become accustomed to this aspect of culture in America. These two countries share a common interest, and this has happened because of globalization. Globalization has influenced China so much to the point where they put the NBA in their dictionary. Certain Chinese basketball players that play in the NBA influence the Chinese people to watch the NBA basketball more and more. Jeremy Lin has resulted in an increase in views in China. Social media is another form of globalization. It allows you to talk to anybody from any country at any time. You are able to contact people all over the world using social media. There are over 68 million users on Facebook in Brazil, and there are over 62 million users in India. Of the 310 million people that live in the US, over half of them have Facebook. Facebook is not just in one country. It is in nearly all countries with internet access. This means that you can be exposed to other cultures and learn more about another person's culture through the post of a status or a picture. Learning about someone else's customs through social media is globalization and interconnection at its finest. Globalization can also be seen through television. It is estimated that 2.5 billion people in the world have daily access to a television set. CNN broadcasts in over 212 countries. Globalization, you might ask? People all over the world are watching the same or similar news. The people in the US are aware of what's happening in other countries, as well as people in other countries are aware of the occurrences that are happening in the US. One event that I'm sure people are aware of worldwide is the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. People know about this event mainly because of television and the news coverage that is broadcasted on a global scale. Afghan president, Israeli prime minister, Japanese prime minister, along with other leaders around the world have reached out to America after this tragic event. A human right is a right that is believed to belong justifiably to every person, or in other words, your basic rights. In 3 units that we looked at, we saw a lack of human rights in Russia, Latin America, and Asia. In Russia, Vladimir Putin, the president, censors television and internet and does not give the citizens as much freedom as they feel they deserve. There's a lack of freedom of speech, in which you cannot speak out against the government, and if you do speak out against the government, you are jailed and punished. Cuba and Latin America is a place with little human rights. They've had a dictatorship dating back to the 1950s. If you criticize the government, you are also jailed. Government controls all media outlets and info is highly restricted. The people are unable to do basic things, such as leave or return. You cannot leave or return the country without official permission, and this permission is usually denied. People are thrown in jail because of protests against the government. There's an absence of human rights in Asia, in a small country named Myanmar. The Muslims are treated unfairly and are not provided with the basic rights. June 3rd, 2012, 11 innocent Muslims were killed. The Muslims have suffered over the past few decades in this country. Muslim women have been raped and tortured. The Muslim people are not treated with respect, and it is clear that human rights aren't present for the Muslims of Myanmar. As we moved throughout this unit, we saw reoccurring issues in different countries. A main issue that can be seen in pretty much any country in the world is poverty. Poverty is a lack of money or not being able to maintain your basic necessities. People all around the world are unable to provide themselves and their families with shelter, food, and water. In Russia, 13.1% of people are living under the poverty line. approximately 18.1 million. The rich earn 16 times more than the poorest citizen on average, and the average Russian earns $4.5 an hour. In Latin America, poverty gets even worse, specifically Brazil. 35% of people in Brazil live in poverty. The poorest 10% average less than $10 a month. This means 1 in every 10 people make $1 every 3 days. This is barely enough to purchase food, let alone live off of. In America, people spend more than $10 for one meal. In Brazil, 4.8 million people survive on no income at all. Poverty is a major issue in Latin America. China also suffers from poverty. 200 million people in China live below the international poverty line. 468 million people live on less than $2 a day. Many people in this country work in sweatshops where they make less than $1 a day. They agree to work for such ridiculous wages because they know someone else is willing to do the job and can replace them at any time. Poverty is seen in all of these countries. It is a problem that is difficult to fix, which is why we see it continue in these major countries. Another issue that has plagued these countries is government corruption. We often see government corruption because the government can be greedy and look to obtain money. Therefore, they allow criminals to pay them off. Also, government corruption happens when the government is looking to maintain power. For example, in Russia, Vladimir Putin was accused of rigging the elections. The people of Russia held peaceful protests. Some of the people that participated in these protests were arrested. The government also owns large companies in Russia. The Russian government owns Rosneft, the biggest oil company in the world. They have created a modern-day monopoly in Russia, and the government won't punish these companies because it would be like them punishing themselves. In Latin America, it is reported that criminals pay off government officials. Corrupt government officials make extra money from these criminals and in return get these criminals out of trouble. Also, cops are paid off by the drug cartels to look the other way when crimes are committed. Government officials accept this money while their country becomes filled with crime. Lastly, the government in Myanmar misused its power to stay in office. The Democratic leader Aung San Suu Kyi won the election in Myanmar. She gained many followers through her democratic campaign. She was then placed under house arrest and confined to her house by the cruel Myanmar government. This is an example of how governments maintain power using unfair tactics. It is apparent that globalization is affecting the world immensely. China is adapting to the American culture through the NBA. The NBA and American League has spread to many other countries. People are using Facebook to connect with others around the world. People all over the world are communicating ideas and sharing pictures with people whom they've never met. One is able to watch the news and be updated on the happenings in another country. To me, these three ideas portray globalization. They show the relevance of globalization in our society today. How ideas, news, and most importantly, culture is passed throughout many different countries. I would like to thank you for your time and for helping me to grow as a person throughout the semester. It was nice knowing you.